Let's be honest, we've all been sold a lie. You know the image, the club-wielding, brutish caveman. A hulking, primitive figure that's been burned into our brains for over a century. That stereotype has completely colored how we see one of our closest ancient relatives, the Neanderthal. But what if that whole picture is just wrong? What if Neanderthals had technology that could rival early modern humans? What if their toolkit wasn't just sharp rocks, but complex spears, industrial-strength superglue, and a working knowledge of chemistry? It's time to shatter the stereotype and uncover the lost, high-tech world of the Neanderthals. For decades, the story was simple. Neanderthals were an evolutionary dead end, outsmarted and out-hustled by us, Homo sapiens. Their tools were seen as basic, clumsy, and unchanging, a perfect reflection of a supposedly limited mind. We pictured them just banging rocks together, getting a sharp edge by luck instead of skill. But now, that entire story is crumbling under the weight of new evidence. From the dusty floors of caves across Europe and Asia, a completely different record is emerging, a record of ingenuity that's forcing us to rethink everything. The artifacts tell a new story of a people who weren't just surviving their world, but mastering it. They were planners, artisans, and innovators. The evidence points to a mind that could think abstractly, plan for the future, and pass down complex skills through generations. The tools they left behind aren't just rocks. They're the products of a sophisticated, intelligent culture that thrived for hundreds of thousands of years. And this new story starts with a technique that is anything but simple. To really get the leap in Neanderthal thinking, we have to talk about something called the Levallois technique. This wasn't just hitting rocks together. This was like Stone Age 3D printing. The process, which shows up around 300,000 years ago, is a masterclass in foresight and skill. A Neanderthal artisan would take a piece of flint and painstakingly prepare it. They'd carefully chip away at the edges, sculpting the core into a specific, predetermined shape. Almost like a turtle's shell, the goal wasn't even to use that core. The goal was to create a perfect platform so they could strike off a single, flawless flake of the exact size and shape they wanted, all in one decisive blow. This took a deep understanding of how stone fractures, the ability to see the finished product in your mind's eye before you even started, and incredible precision. For a long time, archaeologists thought the shape of the core did all the work. But recent experiments have shown something even more amazing. The toolmaker had to control the angle of their strike with incredible finesse. It wasn't about brute force, it was about dynamic, in-the-moment decision-making. This technique was once thought to belong only to Homo sapiens, but finds at sites like Shukba Cave prove Neanderthals were masters of it. It's the first real, tangible evidence of that kind of advanced planning, and it was a cornerstone of their technology for thousands of years. But the Levallois technique was just one page in the Neanderthal playbook. Their ingenuity wasn't a one-trick pony. We found their toolkits, and they were incredibly diverse, sometimes with 40 to 60 different types of tools, each made for a specific job. Think of it less like a Swiss Army knife and more like a modern mechanic's toolbox. There were specialized scrapers for preparing animal hides, sharp points for hunting, flakes for butchering, and even tiny, precise burins used for engraving. This wasn't a one-size-fits-all approach, they were engineering solutions. That kind of flexibility is a huge sign of advanced thinking. They weren't just making sharp rocks. They were designing specific tools for the problems of their daily lives. But their real genius kicked in when they started combining different materials. If the Levallois technique shows us the Neanderthal as a physicist, their use of glue reveals them as a chemist. Seriously, one of the most mind-blowing discoveries is that Neanderthals were making the world's first synthetic material, glue. For years, everyone assumed that attaching a stone point to a wooden spear, a process called hafting, was our invention. Nope, Neanderthals were making these complex, multi-part tools hundreds of thousands of years ago. Their secret ingredient was birch bark tar. This is not something you just find lying around. To make it, Neanderthals had to heat birch bark to between 340 and 400 degrees Celsius, all while starving it of oxygen. That requires incredible fire control and a complex, multi-step process that looks a lot like a kind of proto-industrial production. And they didn't stop there. At a site in France called Le Moustier, researchers found tools with traces of a composite adhesive, a custom-made glue. They were mixing ochre pigment with bitumen, a natural asphalt. By adding just the right amount of ochre, they created a putty that was strong enough to be a handle but malleable enough to grip comfortably. This is a deliberate act of invention, creating a brand new material with better properties. It's a technological leap that completely shatters that old, tired stereotype. Thinking of Neanderthals as just stone-tool people misses a huge part of the picture. Their world was also built from wood and bone. Organic materials rarely survive for tens of thousands of years, but the evidence we do have is spectacular. Fire-hardened wooden spears from Germany, dating back over 300,000 years, show that Neanderthals' ancestors were masters of woodwork. And we have direct proof from a yew-wood spear in Italy, perfectly shaped and fire-hardened by Neanderthals themselves. They were also systematically working with bone. Across Europe, from Siberia to France, we've found extensive bone tool industries. They made bone retouchers, like tiny hammers for sharpening their stone tools. But maybe most surprisingly, they created specialized tools called lisoirs. These are smooth-ended tools made from deer ribs used to work animal hides to make them softer, more flexible, and even more water-resistant. Get this, these are the exact same kind of tools used by high-end leather workers today. For a long time, lisoirs were considered a modern human invention, but the oldest ones ever found were made by Neanderthals. Some researchers even think that when modern humans got to Europe, they learned how to make them from the Neanderthals already living there. Every tool is more than just an object. It's a fossilized idea. It's a window into the mind that made it, the complexity of their tools, the chemistry of their glues, and their mastery of wood and bone all point to one thing: Neanderthals were smart. They could plan, follow multi-step processes, and think abstractly. Making birch bark tar wasn't an accident. It was the result of trial and error and of knowledge being passed down from one generation to the next. That means they had to be communicating, sharing ideas within a stable culture. We're even finding evidence they made string from plant fibers, which opens up a world of possibilities for bags, nets, and traps. And beyond pure function, we see hints of a symbolic world. They used pigments, collected shells, and eagle talons. This suggests a mind that wasn't just surviving, but experiencing a rich and complex life. They took care of their sick, buried their dead, and created technology every bit as clever as their modern human cousins. The story of the Neanderthals isn't a story of failure anymore, it's a story of incredible success. For hundreds of thousands of years, they adapted and thrived in the face of brutal ice ages and changing landscapes, and their technology was the key. They weren't brutish primitives waiting around to be replaced. They were intelligent, innovative, and resourceful people. That stone flake, that complex spear, that little pot of glue, they aren't just artifacts. They're a testament to a lost world of ingenuity. They force us to throw out the insulting caricatures and see a people who were, in every sense, masters of their world. And as we keep digging, you have to wonder, what other amazing technologies are still buried, just waiting for us to find them? If you found this trip into the Neanderthal world as fascinating as I did, make sure to like this video and subscribe for more stories from our ancient past. And drop a comment below. What piece of Neanderthal tech surprised you the most? Thanks for watching.